Okay, we're going to get this started because I know it's about 6:20 right now. Well, welcome everybody. It is Success Over Struggle, and if you've never been to this portion of the event, this is really where I get to interview and ask the raw and real stories of entrepreneurial leaders and just founders here in the Valley making a difference. I love to bring up some lessons, and today we're here to talk about that and really dive more into that. Would you agree? Everybody has a story that they're like, oh my gosh, I totally had to go through this, and now I'm here, right? So I love being able to do this. I am always that person. Like when people ask, what inspires you? This inspires me. Meeting good people and saying, Sasha, was it all champagne and roses? And you would say, hell no. Hell no. Hell no. You know, Adrian, what about you? Same thing? Champagne and roses?
Maybe later.
Maybe later. But when you look at, I mean, Adrian, he is a doctor. He's got your life figured out. And you're like, maybe. Maybe. But here's what I'm saying is that everybody's got a story to tell. And I love being able to break the barriers and peel back the layers a little bit and let you guys in on their little secrets. The raw and real, as I say. So our good guys at Dave & Buster's are just putting the screens up so you can see who is sitting on the panel with me, and I will introduce them. Let me just grab my cheat sheet real quick.
My mom wrote my bio. You don't have to read it.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to ask them each a question. They're going to answer those questions for me, and then we'll do a little bit of Q&A if you have some questions for them too. But we're going to start off with Sasha Simmons. I've got a great story about Sasha too. She's the founder of SpeakLife LLC. She is the podcast host of 731, and she's also an author of 20 Major Keys to Establish Your Own Greatness. Let's give it up for Sasha Simmons. Yes. So Sasha and I have met each other a total of 3 times. 3 times. We actually met at Phoenix Startup Week back in March. And loved her style, loved her energy, and was like, I have got to meet this girl. And I had a choice that day. I could go get my Chick-fil-A lunch, because that's what they were serving that day, or I could stick around and I could meet Sasha. And to me, when you have that opportunity to meet someone that really made an impression on you, you skip Chick-fil-A, you go eat a bag of chips, because that's what you get, and you go meet this person. So I met Sasha Simmons. She actually came. She beat out Chick-fil-A, and Chick-fil-A is good. It's good.
A big deal.
I remember going, and they're like, "We're out now," and I'm like, "Oh!" But I met Sasha. It was amazing. I got to meet Sasha. So Sasha and I, she is just like me. I love getting up there and speaking and emceeing, and you do that for a living. And I was so interested in meeting her, and we connected and have done business together, and asked her to be on the panel. So thank you for coming on board. All right, Sasha. So she recently did this talk at the Phoenix Art Museum called The Whole Story Show, and she titled her box, now get this, titled her talk, F Yo Box. F Yo Box. I'm probably not even doing that justice. But I love that, because if you've seen, even I wrote a book and I was like, I'm going to use that word on the title. But I want to know, like, what prompted you to get up there, say this? What was the story that you shared that prompted this bold title and this bold move?
Thanks, Tisha. So I'm just gonna say the full title. It was called Fuck Yo Box. And I was really hesitant at first. I was really hesitant to tell my story. I grew up in a cult-like religion where women were allowed to do 2 things, have children and cook and clean. And I was oppressed for most of my young life, covered from head to toe. You weren't allowed to go to prom, to play sports, to go to doctors. Like, there's a whole entire laundry list of things you were not allowed to do. And there was a lot of programming that happened in my young life. And leaving that religion and finding my wings and finding myself in the world was the single most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. And so when I met with Rachel, who was the curator of The Whole Story, I had this fluffy story that I was planning to share, and at the end of me telling her my story that I had written so eloquently, and I was so proud of that original story that I wrote, and she was like, nah, that's not the story. That's not what we want to hear. But you mentioned something about the religion really quickly. Tell me more about that. And I was like, gosh, I don't know if I want to go into those details because it's really personal. Like when you're talking about those things, like it's really personal. And I realized that I couldn't get through the story without crying, like at this phase of my life, because it was a really dark time. Like I talk about it, you know, right now, somewhat lightheartedly, but it was a really, really dark time for me in my life. And I want people to understand that when you go through something that's so hard and so difficult, you get to the point where you finally get over that and you're like, man, fuck that. Like, if I'm offending you, okay, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you, you know? Like, fuck it, right? And you get to the point where you're like, I'm over that. Like, I had to get through that. It was so hard for me, but you're not gonna put me in this box. And growing up in that religion, all I knew was God in this box. And that's all I knew. Like, I couldn't talk to any of you guys because you weren't in the religion that I belonged to. And me leaving, going to NYU, traveling the world and seeing all of these different people made me realize that God and my world was so much bigger than that box I had been placed in for so many years. And so it was hard naming my story that, but I did, and I was very happy. If you guys get a chance, please go on YouTube and listen to the story. It is called Fuck Your Box. Watch it. It's about a 14-minute story, and I hope that you enjoy it.
Thank you. Thank you, Sasha. You're like, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry. This is all about raw and real, all right? So there's no holding back. we do not, this is like improv. This is like whatever comes out of your mouth tonight is coming out of your mouth. So yes, I can appreciate that. All right, Adrian McIntyre. I was just on his show with his lovely wife, Jen. He is the president of Valley Business RadioX. He's also a storyteller. He runs the Story Profit. You're a speaker. Berkeley grad? Yeah, Berkeley grad. All right, and just had the pleasure, like I said, of being on his radio show and just had a great time talking about real life. And so we get to return the favor. I get to ask you the questions now. All right, so you've mastered the art of storytelling and story listening, and you teach others to do both in your business. Can you share a story that was a defining moment in your life, and what did that teach you? All right.
Sure.
So it's a good thing this is improv, because I'm going to change everything that I thought I was going to say based on what Sasha said. As somebody who works with a lot of people on telling their personal stories, one of the things that I have come to realize, like most things in life, I make a lot of mistakes, I learn the hard way, that's pretty much the only way I ever learn, is that there are so many things we can't remember because there are a few things we can't forget. That's insight number one about personal storytelling. The second insight that I've come to over the years is that the most important stories to tell are not our own. And what I mean by that is we need to narrate our lives if we're committed to this. I mean, it's not for everybody, but if you want to use your life as a way to touch people, to open up their eyes to something, to get them to take some action, you've got to tell personal stories that end up not really being about you. And so what I was thinking of when you were sharing that was, it's really important for us to talk about the boxes that other people have put us in. And it's equally important for us to acknowledge the boxes we've put ourselves in. When I was 3 weeks into the second grade, my teacher called a meeting with my parents and the principal and said, you know, we should talk about Adrian. I think he's too advanced for the second grade. He's very verbal, he's reading at an 8th grade level. I don't know I'm going to be able to teach him anything this year. We think he should be in the 3rd grade. My mom thought that was awesome because now everybody would know that little Adrian was so smart, and she took complete credit for all of that.
Hey, Mom.
I thought it was a terrible idea because I had seen those 3rd graders. They were big, and all my friends were in the 2nd grade. But I was overruled, and 3 weeks into the school year, my mom dropped me off for my first day of 3rd grade. I walked up to the door, opened the door, went in. Fortunately, the 3rd grade teacher had been my 1st grade teacher, so I knew her, and she met me. Mrs. Mallory said, come with me, I'll show you where to put your bag. She took me into the little room at the back, and this was all new. We didn't have a little room at the back. 2nd grade. So I went in there, and there was hooks and little cubby holes. You know, did you have this? The little room, there's the bathroom, but then there's like the cubby holes and stuff. She said, you can put your lunch here, you can hang your coat here, and when you come out, I'll show you to your seat. Fine. So I'm kind of standing around, I don't know what I'm doing, just looking around, whatever. This big kid named Tyson, I didn't know his name was Tyson, I learned that later, came in, shoved me against the wall and said, "Who are you? You don't belong here." And I'm thinking to myself, you're right, I don't want to be here. Later that day, when we were back in the room, Tyson picked me up and hung me from the little hook on my shirt. Like, it was very clear that third grade was not going well. Now, I didn't realize what I'm about to tell you until many years later. But I made a decision right there on the spot, and it shaped my life. I mean, I think even to this point, I'm not over it. And that decision was, you have to hide who you are. It's not safe to be smart. I don't know what your thing was. Maybe it wasn't smart, maybe it was pretty, maybe it was funny, maybe it was weird. But I think that all of us at some point have put ourselves in a box because of things that have happened. Maybe what happened to you was worse than Tyson. Stuff happens to people, right? And before we can start to find our voice and share our stories, we have to give back the permission we took away from ourselves at some point in time, or many times over and over. We've got to actually find new ways to use our past as a source of strength, not shame, which is that's what got me thinking about this. So, you know, the point of this story is actually not that Adrian was smart and was in the third grade. It was actually at that moment that I checked out. I stopped doing schoolwork. I stopped, doing grades. Got terrible grades. I was a D and F student all the way through till the second time after I dropped out of college. So, well, today you could say, great, Adrian has a PhD from Berkeley. Isn't that great? It's fine. It's actually expensive. I have student loan debt that goes up, up, up every year. In case you haven't noticed, those are the most expensive, useless 3 letters in my entire life, PhD. But what I'm committed to is that all of us have a chance to look for ourselves with fresh eyes. What if we decided we can't be because of something somebody said or did? And maybe it was silly, maybe it was a classroom bully, maybe it was horrific. The only people that can give us back our voice, our life, is us. Because even though those people did those things, we're actually the one that took it away from ourselves to make sure that doesn't happen again. And until we're willing to be a little bit more brave, and I'm not there yet, by the way, Nico's the one telling his story every day, I'm not. Until we actually give ourselves permission to be who we really are, and start to show up for each other and give each other permission to be who we really are, we're going to keep living out this fake nonsense life. And we all need to grow up a little bit, a lot, about that.
Thank you. Well, that's some good takeaways. Did you guys hear that? Just Maria. Just like, shh.
They still have happy hour specials if you need another
Happy hour
drink.
specials. Whoa, that was good. That was deep. That was deep.
It was.
All right. Okay. Charlotte. Charlotte and I go way, way back. She is the president of the Media Push LLC. She is in public relations, social media. She is just the woman that does it all. She is the Wonder Woman, right? That's what I call you. I'm like the Wonder Woman. But ever since we've known each other, she's been go, go, go all the time. Maria can attest to this too. She sits on boards. She's on the Love Up Foundation. You help with your kids' school, and you do a lot of volunteerism. Was there an experience that forced you to stop and slow down? And what was that? And what was your big takeaway from that? Charlotte?
So a little background on me. I am originally from Michigan, and I moved out here to Arizona in 1999, and I worked on TV. And I realized quickly that the negativity of news was getting to me, and for my own health reason, I decided to get out of it, and I decided to go in public relations. And when I did, I decided to work from home. And one of the reasons I did that is when I worked in an environment where things were fast-paced, like news and ad agencies and such, they didn't really cater to women who are parents, dads or moms, And I always sat there and said to myself, I'm going to be that person who's going to take more control of my life and do something for myself and be able to, be able to be there for my kids, that kind of stuff. So fast forward to last April, I've been living a pretty decent life. I got married. I have 2 boys, 8 and 10. My life has pretty much been, I would say, pretty much a fairy tale since I got married. And I've been very lucky. And I basically am one of those people who assumes that nothing really bad is going to happen to me. And in April, with the insistence of my husband, he noticed that in my office I had a folder that had mammogram orders, and in the past 3 years I had just filed them away. I never went and actually went in for them. And my husband's a PA, and he would see the orders and he would pull them out and he'd say, Charlotte, you got to get your mammogram. I'm like, I go to the doctor, there's nothing in the blood test, they feel my boobs, I don't feel anything, there's no breast cancer in my family, I don't need to go. And he's like, no, you gotta go. And I just kept putting it off. I mean, everything's going great in my life. And then I walk into my office one day and my husband had a sticky note on top of my 3 orders from the past 3 years, and all it says was, I love you, bunches. That's his nickname for me. And I was like, fine, I'll go in, I'll go get my stupid mammogram and I'll show you. So I go in, and an hour later I get a call from Smile saying, we see some stuff and we need you to come back. And my life pretty much stopped right there. And when I went in for my ultrasound and biopsies, I jokingly said to the radiologist, how many times do people leave here and it's never cancer? She's like, oh, I'd be surprised if it's not cancer. And I was like, oh, crap. And they're not really supposed to say that to you anyways. My husband was like floored when he heard that. So anyways, long story short, I ended up having breast cancer. In June, I had a bilateral mastectomy. I basically said I'm Angelina Jolieing everything in my body that could cause cancer. So all my lady parts are gone, TMI. And I guess for me to get through it, I really needed the support of my friends, not only my close friends, but I wanted to share my journey with people through social media. And that's basically how I learned my profession in public relations. I went to school for broadcasting. I didn't know PR. And so I always shared a lot about myself. And that's how I was endeared to a lot of my clients. They got to know me. I got a lot of friends that way. And so when I found out I had breast cancer, I shared it on social media. And I didn't do it in a way where I wanted people to feel sorry for me. I literally wanted people to know that sometimes you gotta wake up and realize that life is not gonna be as good as you think it's gonna be. And something's gonna stop you. And if there's something you can do to fix that, then, I mean, if that means going in and getting your boobs checked, then get your boobs checked. But I also realized through my journey is that a lot of us who have not been through this, our vision of who has cancer is many times a frail lady with a bald head, hooked up to an IV for chemo. And in the end, I didn't need chemo. I only needed radiation. But I wanted to share the highs and the lows of it. And I think that was my way of healing through the whole process. And now I have people coming to me a year and a half later telling me, I just went in for a mammogram and they've got some questions, or I just got diagnosed with breast cancer, or my sister did, what do I do? And I'm so happy that I can be there to help people and help them realize that it's not so scary. And it made me realize that, life is very precious. And the one thing is that you have to stay positive about things and you have to be open. I personally think that the more open you are about your journeys, the more people are going to come and support you and learn from you, and the world can be a better place that way, personally, I think. So when I got diagnosed, I was the president of my PTO. I was running a company with like 11 to 12 clients, and I was on 2 other nonprofit boards, and I did that to kind of like basically just not think about it. But if there's one thing I can say is when you are faced with something that is either medically challenging or life challenging, sometimes it is okay to step out and talk to people about it, because it makes it a lot less scary for others, for them to realize it. Basically, if I have any advice, stay positive and be open with others. It's going to make the journey a little bit easier.
Thank you, Charlotte, for sharing that. Real quick too, so the question tonight was your most memorable Halloween costume, and I'd love to know, just the 3 of you, how many of you are having some fun with this question? Just in going around and asking. Yafi's like me, right here. Yafi, what were you? You were
I'm the Frankenfurter as a joke.
a Frankenfurter. I've got Ken here who's the Invisible Man. I'm like, how do you pull off the Invisible Man? He's like, did you see me? And he's like, that's how I pulled it off. I'm like, it's so brilliant, so brilliant. Yeah, I love that it brings out the personality of you, of just asking simple questions. And Nico, are you still here? Nico, we talk about this a lot. It's really about the stories we tell that people get connected to us. That is the simple truth. That people get connected when you get to meet someone, and it's not about, this is what I do and this is why you should buy. Right? It's more about that relationship. All right, Sasha, you got it?
Yep.
All right, Sasha.
All right, so I put loofah on my thing, but last year, yeah, I was a loofah previously, but I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about that.
How do you do a loofah?
It was cute. I have pictures for those of you who want to see. Last year I was a ballot, so I always make my Halloween costumes, and last year was a huge election year, and I wanted to really promote making sure people go out and vote, and so I made this elaborate ballot, and it ended up getting picked up by like news and like Angela Rye, and all these people were like retweeting it and reposting. I woke up and I was like, oh my god, like I can't believe it. So it was really fun. It was really cool. It took a lot of work. I will never ever make a ballot again because it took way too much work, but it was great, and I think it got the message out to get people to go out and vote.
Awesome. All right. Adrian.
I wish you were a 2004 ballot with like Florida,
Is that shade?
dimpled Chad, Supreme Court.
That's hilarious.
Story for another time. For you kids in the back. So my favorite Halloween costume is not actually cool at all. It's embarrassing. But there's an important lesson for me anyway. 1986, Halloween. Ronald Reagan was bombing Libya, and as a relatively ignorant, privileged white kid from the suburbs, me and my friends thought it would be hilarious to dress up as Arab terrorists. So we did. And I had actually traveled in that part of the world as a kid, so I had a keffiyeh. I didn't know it was called that at the time. And we went door to door pretending to be Arab terrorists, because when you're dumb and white and privileged, you don't realize a lot of what's at stake here. I've spent the rest of my life trying to make up for that. Charlotte's Web is probably one of the most profound books in this idea that you can be for a cause greater than yourself.
Oh my God. See, that's what I meant to say. Wow.
You're learning going on up here.
Plus moms rule. I think that's what Charlotte's Web is also about.
Well, Charlotte, I just saw you dressed up as Wilma.
Wilma. Yeah.
Wilma, Fred Flintstone, Wilma. So adorable. Yes. So Wilma. All right. So we've got just a couple minutes. I want to just get some shameless plugs. What's going on with you, Sasha? What are you working on now? What should we be looking out for?
So if you want to follow me on Instagram, you can follow me at the Sasha Simmons, TheSashasimmons. I pull in their audience. I think that that's really important in each and every single one of you. If you are an entrepreneur, you have to be able to capture the attention of the audience. at any given time, right? And so Speak Like a Boss is a training that I do. It's actually one that I did at Phoenix Startup Week, but we're now taking it to online just to access more people. And so we're really, really excited about that. So be on the lookout for that. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, Sasha Simmons, again, across all social media, The Sasha Simmons, or my website is sashasimmons.com.
Thank you, Adrian.
Shameless plug. I have no plug. I'm wireless. Let's see here. Okay, I've been thinking lately. This is very improv. I've been thinking lately that we live in really interesting times because there are a lot of people who are talking and haven't really done much, and then there's a lot of people who have done much and aren't really talking. And by the way, I think both are equally a problem. And somewhere in the middle, there's people that haven't done anything and aren't saying anything, but that's fine. That's something else. So I've been thinking, I tend to work as a storytelling consultant with individual executives who can afford the fee. I'm thinking of putting something together that would be free and would be for everyone in our community, this and other adjacent communities, where we can all work together on a kind of personal storytelling challenge to really elevate the honesty and openness and courage and whatnot. So it's not clearly defined yet, but I am giving a talk on November 20th that I'm going to have to announce this at. So you're getting the preview. If this is interesting to you, you want to be part of something as it comes together, just let me know. I'll be here.
I was asked to be a part of a book that's coming out, and it's called The Lemonade Stand. And it's basically a bunch of different women talking about their challenges in life and how they've gone basically through them and how they've made lemonade out of lemons. So that should be coming out in December, hopefully, and I'll be sharing it on my social media. I'm online all the time, so you can find me on Twitter, Shaff, Instagram, Shaff. If you want to follow me and my children on Facebook, feel free to friend me also. I'm pretty much an open book, so that's basically my thing. Right now I do public relations and social media. My specialty is local small businesses. I really love to help them spread the word about who they are and what they do and their expertise. But right now I'm pretty much at my limit, and I've had some long talks lately with some girlfriends, and I have to know how to say no, which is very hard for me. But I spread myself too thin, so being honest with you, if you need PR, I can recommend somebody to you. So.
Great.
Thank you to our panel. Let's give them another round of applause. You know, this is always a challenge. It's always a challenge to pull back those layers and tell your stories. And Adrian, tell your story.
Can I put one more thing real quick?
You said something that actually bothered me. I want to correct it. You said that I've mastered the art, and that's not true. None of us have mastered anything. But what it is what you just said. It's a practice. So storytelling, like yoga, like anything that's meaningful in life, is a living practice, or it's nothing. So all I'm interested in is that we all practice.
Yes.
There's no mastery. There's just more practice.
Practice.
Sorry to
Hashtag more practice.
White guy.
Okay, Adrian. Oh, I'm like, All right, does anyone have any questions for the panel before we end tonight? Anyone? We're all good? Did you get some value out of this? Get some good stories? All right. So they've all said how you can connect with them, and this is a great opportunity to come meet the panel and stay connected and get connected. And this is really what the whole event is about, is getting connected with people, good, genuine people. So I encourage you to come check with Sasha and Adrian and Charlotte and get to meet them. Just real quick, the next Social Connect is taking place, like I said, January 28th, 2020. We'll actually be downstairs because it's going to be freezing up on the rooftop. So we'll be downstairs again, and I will be posting more dates.